Hello, welcome back guys to another prediction video, this time about the quarterfinals of the Club World Cup. Now, in the round of 16, a lot of insane results happened, some results that I wasn't even expecting. Yeah, so it's only right that I give you my predictions about these quarterfinal clashes. And you know what, I might actually have some upsets, who knows. So, let's get right into it. Okay, starting off with Palmeiras versus Chelsea. Now, Palmeiras, they started off their Club World Cup. They tied to Porto 0-0. Then they beat Egyptian side Al Ahly 2-0. And then they tied to Inter Miami 2-2. And I was there. They came down from 2-0 behind. And then they came back. That's how they showed really good resilience there. Now, they finished top of the group, sharing points with Inter Miami, but only on a higher goal difference. And they had the chance to play a familiar face, Botafogo. So, I saw some predictions, and most people said Botafogo were going to go through, but not me. I said Palmeiras were going to go through, because remember, Palmeiras is my champion, because South American clubs are just good. And yeah, Palmeiras won this game 1-0 after extra time with a goal from Paulinho. Okay, moving on to Chelsea. Chelsea started off their Club World Cup by beating LAFC 2-0. And then they actually lost to a Brazilian team, Flamengo, 3-1. They got outplayed by them. So, and then they beat Sporting Club de Tunis 3-0 to advance to the round of 16. And they had to play Benfica. So, Reece James scored a spectacular free kick. Wow, what a goal that was. I was watching the game, and oh my god, what a goal by Reece James. That's like the fourth free kick goal of this Club World Cup. And Reece James scored a really good one. But then in the 85th minute, they had to stop the game because of lightning. I mean, in the East Coast, yeah. I live in the East Coast, and yeah, it's raining a lot. So the game was suspended for like 2 hours, and yeah. But the game went back on, and then Di Maria scored a penalty in the last minute of added time. And then the game went to extra time, but things changed when Benfica got a red card, and then they completely collapsed. First, it was a mistake by Otamendi, which led to a goal from Chelsea, and then Pedro Neto most likely finished the game off by scoring a goal to make it 3-1, but that wasn't finished. Then Chelsea scored again, thanks to Hull, who scored to wrap it up 4-1. Now, who do I have winning this quarter-final tie? So, Chelsea are going to struggle a bit, although they do have Pedro Neto, who's been cooking a lot, same as Liam Delap. They lost to a Brazilian side already, 3-1. So, and Palmeiras, they're playing okay recently, but this is actually pretty tight. I'm going to say Palmeiras are going to go through. Yeah, Palmeiras are going to go through. You heard me correctly. They are going to beat Chelsea. It's going to be 1-1 and it goes to pens, okay? And Palmeiras win. So yeah, that's my first upset of this video. Oh, and it's a repetition of the 2022 Club World Cup where Chelsea beat them 2-1. So, moving on to our next prediction, which is Al Hilal versus Fluminense. So, Al Hilal, they drew their first game against Real Madrid 1-1. Yeah, that's impressive because Bono saved the last-minute penalty against Valverde. And then they tied 0-0 to Salzburg. And then, yeah, they had a chance to beat Pachuca, and they did. They beat Pachuca 2-0 to advance to the next round. Marcos Leonardo has been cooking a lot. He's been scoring a lot of goals. Bono, especially, has been saving He has the most saves in the tournament. Bordo. Yeah, and Ruben Neves is also good. Underrated midfielder, Ruben Neves. And yeah, they had to play, but since they finished second, they had difficult task of playing Manchester City. Now, Man City were not an easy opponent, since they topped the group by beating Casablanca 2-0, and then they beat Al Ain 6-0, and then they beat Juventus 5-2. Yeah, 5-2, that reminds me of something. Yeah. And then they had to play Al Hilal. So things did not start off well for Al Hilal since they conceded a goal. Well, in my opinion, that wasn't actually a goal because it handballed off someone. But it is what it is. The goal standard by Bernardo Silva. And yeah. Then Malcolm scored off a brilliant counter-attack to tie the game 1-1, and then Marcos Leonardo scored to make the game 2-1. So City needed to score, and they did. A header of the corner by Erling Haaland, and then the game went to extra time. But then things twisted again. Koulibaly, the center back, scored off a corner to make it 3-2, but it wouldn't end there. Then Phil Foden scored off after a brilliant cross and scored to tie it up 3-3. Now, you might be thinking that game's going to go to pens. Well, it didn't go to pens. In the 112th minute, Marcos Leonardo scored to make it 4-3, and they held on to that. City dominated the game with like 25 shots or something, but Al Hilal only had 6 shots. So, yeah, Al Hilal went through. What a game that was. That was peak entertainment. And now, Fluminense. They've had a good defensive record. They tied to Dortmund 0-0, and then they tied to Mamelodi Sundowns 0-0. But then they beat Ulsan 4-2. Well, you know what? They were actually at the risk of going out, Fluminense. But they didn't go out, thanks to a brilliant free kick from John Arias. That was a great free kick, not gonna lie. And it finished 4-2 for them. And they had to play Inter Milan at the round of 16. Now, Inter might be the luckiest team. First, they had a disappointing draw to Monterrey, 1-1. And then they were so close to losing to a Japanese club called Urawa Red Diamonds. Now, that club is actually really good. They have some of the best fans I've ever seen. But yeah, it's just heartbreaking for Urawa Reds. They were so close. They were leading 1-0 up to the 75th minute. They were just 15 minutes away from making history. But then Inter just broke their hearts, man. And then Inter beat River Plate, because River Plate weren't playing that good. I feel bad for them. And then, you know what? Since Inter are so bad, they conceded in the 3rd minute, and then they conceded again. I don't know what's going on with this Inter team. First, they lose 5-0 against PSG in a Champions League final, and now they lose to Fluminense and have a terrible Club World Cup. So, Fluminense have a good defensive record. And Al Hilal, this is a good matchup, you know. Al Hilal is the only Asian side to be in this quarterfinals. So, who do I got making this? Al Hilal. I'm sorry, Fluminense. But Al Hilal are going to beat you 2-1. Yeah, Fluminense can do something, but Al Hilal are going to get the better of it. So, yeah. And moving on to our next prediction. Wait. Something to tell you. Diogo Jota passed away. Rest in peace to him. Yeah, so moving on to our next prediction. Bayern Munich versus PSG. What a game this is. Again, a repetition of the 2020 Champions League final where Bayern won 1-0. So, PSG had a good start to the tournament. They clapped Atletico Madrid 4-0. And then, yeah, they surprisingly lost to Botafogo 1-0. That was actually crazy. I was expecting PSG to win, but Botafogo just beat them. Yeah, Brazilian clubs, not to underestimate. Brazilian clubs, you cannot underestimate them. So, and then they had to beat the Seattle Sounders, which they did, 2-0. And then they had to play Inter Miami. Now, they completely dominated the game. They won 4-0 against Messi. I feel bad. First it was a header from João Neves, and then João Neves scored again. And then an own goal, and then Hakimi finished the game off by winning 4-0. Yeah, man. João Neves is very underrated. Okay, and now moving on to Bayern. First, they completely destroyed Alcalá City. 10-0. Yeah, 10-0. And then Harry Kane did not even score a single goal. Olise scored 2 goals, and Musiala scored 3 goals. And then they beat Boca Juniors 2-1. Well, that goal from Boca Juniors was a defensive mistake from Bayern Munich, but they won, thanks to a Harry Kane assist and a goal. Same from Olise. Olise scored an assist and a goal. So, and then they actually lost to Benfica 1-0. And then, yeah, they had to play Flamengo in the round of 16. Right, Brazilian clubs not to underestimate. So, that game was peak entertainment, bruh. That game was peak entertainment. First, there was an own goal, and then Harry Kane scored a brilliant strike with his weak foot to put the game up 2-0. And then, yeah, Jetson scored a banger, a powerful strike into the top corner, which gave Flamengo hope, but not for long, until Goretzka scored a golazo to make the game 3-1. And then, although Jorginho scored a penalty, it wasn't enough, because Harry Kane scored a goal to make the game 4-2. That was peak entertainment. That was a great game for the Club World Cup. Second best game from the Club World Cup of round of 16. So, who do I have winning this? Bayern, they can do something, yeah. But it's not going to be easy against PSG. The last appearances PSG met with Bayern, Bayern has won almost all of them. PSG have only won one of them. So, I think this is the perfect time for PSG to get the revenge on Bayern, especially with all the players, Doué, Kvaratskhelia. They have, like, one good player in every position, and Dembele's back from injury. So, yeah, PSG are going to go through, beating Bayern 2-1, yeah, 2-1. Now, our final round of 16 clash in New Jersey, it's going to be Real Madrid versus Dortmund. Now, Dortmund tied 0-0 to Fluminense. Then they beat Mamelodi Sundowns 4-3. That was one hell of a game. That was really good. And then they beat Ulsan HD 1-0. And now they have to play Monterrey. Okay, listen. Almost all of the people put Monterrey to go through. If you put Monterrey to go through, you have zero ball knowledge, bro. Like, who was expecting Monterrey to go through? I put Dortmund to go through. Yeah, and Dortmund did. They did go through. I was the only one who put Dortmund to go through. Yeah, and they did go through. Yeah, and then Real Madrid, they tied versus Al Hilal 1-1. Then they beat Pachuca 3-1. Bellingham, Arda Güler scored. And then they slapped Salzburg 3-0. That was a really good game. Vinicius Jr. scored. And now, the round of 16 against Juventus. And I was there. I was there at the game. And yeah, they won 1-0 pretty convincingly. And yet, Gonzalo Garcia scored a good header. And now they're up against Dortmund. But who do I got winning this? I think we all know the obvious answer. It's obviously Real Madrid. We're going to win this 3-1. Yeah, 3-1. So, yeah, those are my predictions. So, I'll see you for the semi-final predictions.